Hello and welcome to our second Entrepreneurship Insights series of the year, proudly sponsored by RBC. Our title today is Intersectional Experiences of Women Entrepreneurs. I'm so glad you're able to join us tonight. My name is Nick Yo. I am the Director of Programs at RISE, and it's my pleasure to kick us off. So thank you for joining us. Before we start, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples of the lands we are on today. While this virtual platform brings us together from across Turtle Island, the RISE head office is located in Toronto, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, which is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. And we also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. As settlers on this land, I ask that we each take time to reflect on our role and relationship with all Indigenous peoples and hope that we can work together for a better and equitable future. So again, thank you for being with us here tonight. I want to thank RBC for helping make today's event possible. We're so excited to hear from our amazing panel of BIPOC women entrepreneurs. It is wonderful to work with partners like RBC who help us as an organization to create a space for having what can sometimes be challenging conversations and explore the subjects that our participants are interested in. RBC has done this through the funding of several of our youth small business program cohorts, and of course, through our Entrepreneurship Insights series, which is why we're all here tonight. So again, thank you, a warm thank you to RBC. So to get a better sense of who's in the room tonight, I'd like to do a quick poll and ask my team to launch that to understand where everyone is in their business development. So you should see a poll question up there. What is the status of your business? We're going to leave that open for about 30 seconds for everyone to answer. And so while you're doing that, I'd like to introduce you to Stacey Ann Berry, our moderator for the evening, and to our wonderful panelists, Missy Searle, Iman Gurwal, and Andrea Barrett. Thank you all so much for your time and for contributing your energy to what I'm sure will be a very thoughtful discussion. Okay, I think we will close the poll right now. And it looks like a bit of most people here are in pre-sales. And then a couple of you are making sales for more than 3 months and someone is looking to expand. So that's hopefully the conversation here will inspire you as we move forward through your next steps. Stacey, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here with you and be your moderator. So I'm Stacey Ann Berry. My background is in public policy, government relations. I'm also an author, speaker, singer, songwriter. So I do want to give each of you a chance to get to know our dynamic lineup of panelists. We have 3 amazing women who are doing phenomenal things in the community as well in their respective sectors. So I do want to first invite Missy to provide a bit about your professional background, your connection to RISE, and how you live authentically.
Good evening, everyone. I'm coming to you from Shabuktuk, which is Halifax, Nova Scotia. And I am so happy to be here with all of you this evening. In my day, I am a provincial coordinator for the Nurturing Strong African Nova Scotian Families Parenting Program, which is an Afrocentric parenting program. And that's how I spend my Monday to Friday. But as we all know, we always have to have something on the side. So my side, I'm a virtual project consultant, and I manage projects of all sizes and scopes. And I provide support to small business owners. I provide mentorship, and I like to, just kind of be that sounding board, because if someone's in business by themselves and they don't have that team around them, it's always nice to be able to have that sounding board and somebody to just to talk to. I've been currently working for 2 organizations, like full-time as their consultant. So with Ashanti Leadership Professional Development Services, providing curriculum writing for diversity, equity, inclusion, inclusive leadership, gender, microaggressions, all of that. And it's really helped me in my own job. and in my own work as I work with her material. And as well, I work with Tia Upshaw with Black Women in Excellence here in Nova Scotia, providing her event support. So just dabbling in a little bit of everything and grabbing all of the skills that I've achieved over the past 30 some years of working. Every time I say 30, it makes me sad. I came to RISE a few years ago, and I sit on the loan review committee as a member of that team, and it is amazing. I try not to miss a meeting, and I feel so sad when I do miss it because it's so interesting to see all of the different loans that come across our table that we get to read, and to see the fabulous innovative ideas that the entrepreneurs in Canada truly have. And it's been exciting for me to be a part of that team. I also sit as the vice chair of the Delmore Buddy Day Learning Institute, which is an Afrocentric institute here in Halifax that provides teaching and research to all the educational facilities straight across the province. I'm a board director with Bridgeway Academy, which is a private school for children with learning differences. And what drew me there was my son and myself are both neurodivergent. So it was really something special, and it really spoke to me. And I sit as a community representative on our community health board, dealing with the social determinants of health. And our health board encompasses the largest African Nova Scotian communities in the central region of Nova Scotia. And last, I'm the founding committee member of the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Committee for the Halifax Wanderers Football Club. So we are the only, I'll say, soccer team in the country that has a diversity committee that works to protect not only the players on the field, but the fans in the stands. And Stacey, you asked about how I live authentically. Well, I do try to always do what's right, be honest in my comments to others, and be sincere, as much as even coming down to telling you have an E in a sentence. I just try to be really honest about that. And I try to trust myself and no longer let others dictate and take control of my professional life. That's something that someone like me would just do as I was instructed to do, and just take those microaggressions that were put on me. But since my mother's passing, I've become a lot stronger in protecting myself, because when my mom was alive, that different generation, she would tell me to grin and bear it. and right. And I never wanted to hurt her, so I did. But after she passed, I got a little bit stronger, and I knew I wouldn't be disappointing her anymore. I mean, she might be up here and pointing her finger, but when it's come down to protecting my spirit, that's how I'm now living authentically.
Wow. Thank you, Missy, for sharing all the great work you're doing, your accomplishments, and how you're living authentically. Iman, would you like to go next with just introducing yourself and your connection to RISE and how you're living authentically?
Thank you, Stacey. Missy, that's amazing. I know I've read a little bit about your bio, but it was just really wonderful to hear all of the other amazing things that you shared as well. Really grateful to be on a panel with such amazing individuals. So hi, everyone. I'm Iman Grewal. I'm an artist, entrepreneur, and mental health advocate and educator. My journey as an artist first started, I'm a child of immigrant parents. My parents immigrated from Punjab in India in the 70s. And as they were navigating immigrant life, they sent us back to India, my sister and I, for about 4 years to try to adjust and assimilate, I guess you can say. It was very difficult back then in the 70s for them, and still is for folks. And during that time, I was enrolled in a dance academy in India, which started my over 2 decade long dance career, actually, when I came back to Canada. My mom kept me in jazz, tap, ballet, and that spiraled into a 15-year dance career, professional dance career. It also was my first introduction to entrepreneurship, as I saw my parents navigating a home filled with mental illness and addictions and poverty. We experienced homelessness, and I just knew that I wasn't going to find, a way out of this cycle through a 9-to-5 job. Education wasn't available, all of those things that I was seeing around me that were driving forces to finding work and having sustainability in your life weren't available to me. So I saw entrepreneurship as a means of survival, as a way out of that cycle. And I was really grateful to have that hustle, that drive. I was able to enroll myself in college and used all of those business skills to start a first business, one of the first South Asian women to start a business back in the early 2000s, first South Asian entertainment company, which led to a lot of really great collaborations with the Toronto Film Festival. I traveled to the World Economic Forum and performed there twice, all through my company, which, again, entrepreneurship led me to travel the world. It led me to support my family. Mental health advocacy, while seeing it in my home, I knew that this was going to be aligned with my purpose and my passion somehow. I needed to educate myself as to what my loved ones were facing. And then also myself, I faced my first mental health hospitalization at the peak of my career and received my diagnosis, which also, again, led me to learn more about mental health and just the balance of entrepreneurship as well. So yeah, that's led me into the mental health space. My role with RISE and mental health, I'll share a little bit about that. Role with RISE, I am a facilitator for the youth small business cohort and currently working with the Elizabeth Fry Women's Entrepreneurship Cohort, which is a great space where I get to really share my lived experience as a BIPOC woman and just, all of these things that I just shared that I experienced in my home can really, resonate and relate to a lot of the folks that are in the Elizabeth Fry space, a social justice organization that helps women through trauma, and they've been incarcerated and leaving very difficult situations. So it's a really great space for me to be in and share my lived experiences in those situations as well, and find a way to live authentically, right? And where does that come? I would say, during COVID, I really shifted my career as an artist, as a programmer at TIFF, and went into the wellness space full time. So now I work as a mental health educator at the Canadian Mental Health Association in Waterloo, Wellington. Do a lot of great stuff in the community around mental health education. I sit on Soch Mental Health Board. Soch Mental Health is one of the first South Asian mental health organizations. It's a grassroots organization. And we just, try to find language in Punjabi and Hindi, which we don't have, to describe mental health challenges and help fight the stigma and the taboo related to mental illness and mental health. And what else do I do? I do some artist work as well. I do some acting and work for the TIFF as a programmer still as well. How I live authentically through my wellness platform, which is my third business that I launched during COVID. I get to offer wellness retreats for folks that have experienced trauma, that have experienced difficult situations, and help them heal through my meditation and yogic background. Yoga being the birthplace in India, which is where I'm from. It's very deeply rooted in my way of life. So being a fourth generation yoga and meditation practitioner, I get to live authentically by spreading that holistic way of life to folks that are looking to heal themselves. And I also think by healing myself, of course, with all of the things that I've shared, that continuous healing journey that I'm on helps heal others. So that's how I live authentically. And thank you for having me.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really inspiring, very transparent, and just powerful. Thank you so much, Iman. And I'd now like to go over to Andrea. If you can please also provide your professional background, connection to RISE, and share how you're living authentically.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. What a great group to be a part of this evening. I'm so glad to be part of this conversation. As Stacey mentioned, my name is Andrea Barrett, and I'm the founder of the Diversity Agency. We are a speakers bureau and sales and marketing firm that specializes in working with startups and entrepreneurs. I have a soft spot for female entrepreneurs and small startups. Want to make sure they're getting on the right foot and being the best entrepreneur that they possibly can. My connection to Rise, I remember many years ago participating in their workshops and programs, and I have such fond memories of the entire experience. Like I live outside of the city, but had no problem driving into the city to participate in these workshops. I had a great cohort, people that had brilliant ideas, and I just loved hearing the stories, and sometimes helping, working through each other's struggles and seeing the ideas and plans that everyone wanted to bring to life. I remember the facilitators and just admiring how committed they were to our ideas and how, they were everyone's little cheerleader. So it was a really great space and environment that I appreciate and value. I have really fond memories of it. I do a lot of volunteer work. So I volunteer with an organization in Peel called Rescue Youth. So they are rescuing youth, trying to break the school to prison pipeline. I also volunteer with an organization called the Peel Black Collective, just making sure that everyone understands the Ontario human rights codes and what the tribunals do, and just understanding their rights and how to live cohesively in the city. I also have a background in food. I love food. I would be one of those foodies, studied hospitality when I went to university. So I also sit on the board of the Culinary Tourism Alliance. And that is making sure that businesses within our cities and our community are strong and vibrant, that we're making sure that we're patronizing our local culinary bed and breakfast, hotels and restaurants, and keeping the hospitality industry strong and vibrant. How do I live authentically? I believe in self-care. And I also believe that you should do what you want to do. That's something I really believe in. I only do what I want to do. If I don't want to go there or do this or do that, then I don't do it. I listen to my gut, and you just have to stay true. Little things that make me happy, a pedicure, going for a walk, a little piece of dark chocolate. If your favorite song comes on, wherever you are, you can start dancing. If it's a large crowd, then maybe you're just moving your shoulders a little bit. But whatever you feel like doing, I have to listen to like that little voice inside that says, you got to do it. So that's how I live
Awesome.
authentically.
Awesome. Love it. And so good to see you, Andrea. This is good. And
You.
thank you for sharing, your background, all the great things you're doing, and an amazing thread with all three of these amazing ladies that our attendees may have noticed. They give back. They're really involved in their community. And there's some transferable skills that you get from volunteering, sitting on committees. It can set you up for leadership roles. It can set you up to go into C-suite positions. There's so much great value in giving back, and you get a chance to make a difference in your communities, transfer your communities and lives. And that's also a value that I share as well, because I'm one of those do a lot in the community people as well. So we're now going to get into a moderated panel discussion. And my first question is for you, Missy. We know that BIPOC women face numerous challenges in entrepreneurship, meaning it requires more energy, more effort, more trying, more doing, more, networking, and more of everything just to be successful. Like we have like this tax almost, right? Where we have to be twice as good, work twice as fast, and work twice as hard. But yet you've all made time to support entrepreneurs, right? And as well as your community, including by being on this panel. Why is that?
It's funny, I had an answer and but I had the most amazing experience this weekend where 14 Black women went on a retreat for 4 days. And we sat in circles. We had, somebody come in to teach grant writing, someone to come in and teach marketing and content. I myself facilitated, small business support material. We had someone do wellness. And it was this weekend, this collective where even though so many of the women in the room were, new businesses, just startups, we all shared, and everybody, if someone asked a question about something, even some of the new people had something that they could share to support that person, like using a Canva tool or anything like that. It was just this really amazing weekend of sisterhood. And I found all through my years of working with the Center for Entrepreneurship and workplace education that it was so much networking. It was so, psyching myself up in the car before I went into that space, because I knew 9 times out of 10 I was going to be the only one in that space.
Mhm.
So, it wasn't going to be a psychologically safe space for me. And, praying that there would be somebody there that I knew, so that at least I could talk to them first before I actually got up the courage to work the room. And
Mhm.
so this weekend, I saw that for maybe 2 minutes with brand new women to this whole group, because, when they got on that bus, because that was the other thing, we were bused there. So nobody drove there. We all went together and we left together. It was
Mm.
unreal. But you could see that when they stepped onto the bus, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody on this bus.
Mm.
And then it was within 2 minutes, it was like, hey girl, you're from this part and it was just so supportive. And it felt like we were laughing and carrying on. One of the girls actually changed her clothes outside of the bus because she just felt comfortable with all of us. Like, it was just amazing. And so what I always want to say to people who are taking this journey, this path, to not be scared. I feel that I've been put on this earth to help others eliminate those barriers, to help people travel through that. And by sharing my story always, I mean, I've crashed, I've, I've pivoted many times. I did travel for 10 years as an independent travel agent, and then COVID hit.
Mhm.
So, I'm not traveling for free anymore. That's costing me money. Oh, those WestJet. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to talk about it, but it was really hard to put money down to take a flight the last 2 years.
Mhm.
But yeah, so y- it gets better. It doesn't get easier, but it
Mhm.
does get better.
Right.
Just find and I don't like to use the T word, TRIBE, but just find that circle of support.
Mhm.
Um, and as you said yourself, Stacy, like, get involved in your community,
Mhm.
because you can form the greatest network
Mhm.
in those committees or boards that you sit on, you would be surprised the connections that they would have for you. So that's what I would definitely stress, why I do this and why I think everyone should do it. Yeah.
Awesome. And thank you for sharing your experience with retreats. I've been on retreats too, and I find it's a great way to fill your cup. And it's a great way to just really be in that safe space or that sisterhood where you can kind of share your pains, your wins, and it kind of just really refuels you to go back out there and go into those rooms where you might be the only one, but you really have to get to a place where you're comfortable in the skin that we're in, right?
Yes,
We do want to,
exactly.
yeah, so we do want to take a bit of a pause to do another poll. So a poll is going to be launched for our attendees to complete, and then we will continue the conversation. So the question is, how optimistic are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 5? How optimistic are you feeling as an entrepreneur at this point in your journey? 1, not optimistic at all. 2, slightly optimistic. 3, things are looking okay. 4, I'm pretty optimistic. And lastly, 5, I'm sure things are going to turn out well. So we'll give everyone a few moments to complete this poll. And the results should be coming in any moment now. All right, here we are. So about 10% not optimistic at all. Hopefully by the end of this conversation, that will increase. 20% slightly, things are looking okay. Another 20%, pretty optimistic, 30%. And I'm sure things are going to turn out well, 20%. So this is good. And thank you for taking the time to complete that. So Iman, the next question I have is for you. How does entrepreneurship inspire hope and optimism for people who face barriers?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really great question. Optimism and hope for people who face barriers. So I think, first of all, with some of the things that I shared, I guess it painted a pretty clear picture that I have faced a lot of barriers myself. So I'm speaking from my own perspective, my own experience here. Growing up in Rexdale, in poverty, in housing. I never thought that I could be sitting in, a room with, say, one of my first clients was just for laughs, right? I think that not having the opportunities to get those university degrees and find that, that path that I was told to follow as a South Asian woman in my culture, this is what you do. You go to school, you get your degrees, you get that job, and you don't ask questions in, the white spaces that you find yourself in. You just don't ask, right? Because that's what the immigrant experience was for my parents, and still is for many. And so I think if I didn't have those experiences, those barriers, and didn't question the status quo, didn't find that creativity within myself, I think of like Jay-Z's quotes that I think of a lot. If I didn't have that hustler in me, I don't want to not try, right? And I think that optimism, like music, provided a lot of optimism for me in those challenging times, as it does for a lot of people that face challenges. Hip hop really did that for me. And I think, again, growing up in those situations in poverty and not having that path that was, that I was told that was the only way, and questioning all of those things, and then finding myself to be successful and ending up in rooms where I was negotiating, thousands of dollars in contracts with large clients without that path, really provided a lot of optimism for me. And so, I mean, that's my path. But going back to like, how does that provide? Like, how do we look for hope in our situations? Because it's not always that everyone's going to face a lot of adversity and find themselves pursuing entrepreneurship, right? That's not always everyone's path. I would say, again, it's the 9-to-5 job is a very capitalistic way of living life. It doesn't allow to really, reach for the stars, right? So I think all of us come into this world wanting to reach for the stars. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't want to have a life full of freedom. So looking at entrepreneurship as that goal of like, what is my life? What is my dream life? What do I really want? And then going back and looking at those skills that you have. I had dance, I had artistry and creativity, and I used that to provide optimism and hope for myself and my situation. And I see that across the board with the incredible women that I work with right now. I see that across the board with, like I said, even people that haven't faced as, much dark times, I guess you can say, as I can share, right? It's digging inside of yourself and seeing that, is this the life? Like, do I want to be stuck in this, cycle of, like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about a lot too, right? Like, how do we find financial freedom? How do we find, a way to break out of that cycle that's been capitalistic and set up for us, right? So I think just like going back to like inspiring yourself with the skills and the creativity that you have will really, like digging into that optimism for yourself will really provide that freedom in pursuing your dreams. So that's the way I see it inspired hope for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love the theme of freedom, because entrepreneurship does allow us to kind of control our schedule and kind of build other things that we're passionate about into our day. And that's something I could relate to after leaving the 9-to-5, I guess for about 3 years full time too, because I'm also an entrepreneur. So thank you for sharing that. It's really inspiring and powerful that we do have the power within us to create the life we want, essentially, but it takes, resilience, and it has to be step by step, and it's gradual. And also we shouldn't be too hard on ourselves. Don't be afraid to fail. There's other folks that know how to fail forward, right? Why can't we fail forward too? So the next question is for Andrea. Do you think entrepreneurs are born or are they made? Are there entrepreneurial activities that are innate to some people or cultures, perhaps more than others? So what is your insight on this?
In my opinion, I believe entrepreneurs are born. It's not for everyone. And we've seen this. We know not everyone who goes into business succeeds, not because they don't have that entrepreneurial spirit, for a wide variety of reasons. But in my experience and just, surveying the landscape, I really believe that you're born with it. Something in you can't keep you at a desk in a 9-to-5 box. You have these ideas, you're creative. You want to live your life on your own terms. You may want to work 6 months of the year and then travel for another 6 months of the year. You can't really do that if you're, an employee. So that is something that as an entrepreneur that you may have in you, that you know how to hustle, you know how to prospect, you know how to find clients, you know how to design, create, produce, and you want to be able to do these things on your own terms in your own time. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not even a 5 day a week job. You don't have weekends off, depending on what you're doing. I know people who work all the time. Of course, they're taking some breaks, but they're doing whatever they have to do now to get to where they want to be in the future. It's short-term gains, or short-term pain for long-term gain. Not everyone has that like oomph that will, get them from here to the finish line. Can some entrepreneurs be made? You can be taught lots of things. You can be taught how to write a business plan, how to do a marketing feasibility study, how to do a SWOT analysis, how to create avatars and personas, and how to how to design the lean canvas model, what you want to do. But unless you have that drive and that you may not succeed. So my personal thought is that you're born. And when it comes to like different cultures, I wouldn't say it's specific to certain cultures. We have seen some cultures where, they're denied opportunity, and there have been tremendous barriers that have prohibited them from getting into mainstream employment or mainstream work. They have had to become incredibly creative and resilient and create something out of nothing. So I think not necessarily out of culture, but out of circumstance is what sometimes can create the pressure that forces someone to become an entrepreneur. I heard a story the other day where a woman, she had lost her job, and she has 3 kids to take care of. She's a single mom. She needed to do something. So she got into construction, not because construction was her lifelong dream, but there was pressure there. She needs to feed 3 little mouths and put a roof over everyone's head. So she needed to get creative and find an avenue for her, and she found construction.
Mhm. Wow, that's really insightful. Thank you for sharing that, Andrea. And you're right, like it does require for many people to be self-motivated. And sometimes it's, being a mother to 3 kids, like that lady story, that's her motivation to be like, I gotta survive. I gotta find a way to feed my family. So you also do things that may be practical and be willing to, pivot and learn as you go along, because entrepreneurship is kind of an ongoing learning process as well. My next question is for you again, Iman. How does your mental health and other challenges, such as generational trauma or limited support, impact your ability to pursue and thrive as an entrepreneur?
I was thinking about what Andrea was saying, that diamonds are born under pressure, or sorry, yeah, diamonds are made under pressure. I think
That's
we're
right.
diamonds. We're diamonds, entrepreneurs, my fellow entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Right? We're special. We're super special. I think, how does intergenerational trauma, you asked, Stacey, how does that affect the path of entrepreneurship? Yeah, I think, again, what Andrea was touching on in terms of culture, my culture definitely did not offer entrepreneurship as a way of succeeding in life or freedom in this country. To them, the only experience that they had, and they were experiencing that, in terms of like how they're going to support their family and live a life here in a country that they know nothing about, was through finding a 9-to-5 job. So that, was heavily, engraved in me from a very young age. I was told that was not, entrepreneurship was definitely not an option. Although there's so many entrepreneurs in the South Asian culture, it just was not something that, in my home was something that was offered to me as a way of pursuing the life that I wanted to pursue. And yeah, I definitely knew that I was not made to sit behind a desk. Very creative person, always knew that entrepreneurship was the path. And that intergenerational trauma that they come from back home, Sikhs have faced genocide back home in India. So they're coming with a lot of trauma here. And, it's like escaping a situation and coming to to a space, coming to a new country to just find peace. I think that played a big role into like, why do you want this chaotic life? You know, why, like Andrea touched on again, you know, it's not something that's for everyone. It's you don't sleep, you're working all the time, following a dream is hard work, and it's something that you just can't switch off because you're so passionate about it. So again, that played a really big role. And, you know, I do think that for me, with like seeing my parents and what they experienced with mental illness and addictions, and seeing that they were both artists as well back home, I wish that they had more of an exposure again in our culture to see entrepreneurship as a way of thriving in life. So it definitely is not something that's offered to us, and it's definitely not something that's for everyone. Again, especially when we're balancing our mental health, looking at all of those aspects as well is very important for an entrepreneur, but definitely, not something that was offered to me at all. I had to carve my own way and build my own education around it and take care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And those, I have some very similar experiences, I guess, with my family, because my parents immigrated from Jamaica. But there's this concept that we may not label entrepreneurship, where we have these side hustles. Like you'll have that one auntie that's a really good cook, and everybody's saying, open a restaurant, but you don't have the right resources and understanding of what that really entails, like the process for that, because you weren't born into the structures where you can call an uncle to say, hey, I need $100,000 and kind of get you that seed money, right? But it's like, it's in us in a different way. When you were saying in the South Asian culture, like folks are entrepreneurs, but we may not be calling it that, because it's just like a survival thing as well, where you're just realizing there's a need in the community. Let me fill the need, let me make this dress and sell it. And you're just picking up these great skills that are our entrepreneurial skills, but sometimes you don't have the support, the resources, and the right network to help you cultivate and develop that. So I find sometimes that too is a challenge within certain communities. And Andrea, for you, how does privilege, race, economic status, or cultural identities impact our view and understanding of entrepreneurship?
100% it colors our view for everything. So just to lean on your last point, there are people who have these talents and skills but don't see it as entrepreneurship. So Mrs. Fields, most people are aware about, makes these great cookies, and they're in malls. Your aunt may be a great cook or a great baker. They don't think, oh, the fact that I bake bread, that's just something I do for my niece and my nephew.
Right.
When if they had the opportunity, and by opportunity, I mean finances or social capital. So the networking, knowing who knows who, and someone to take them by the hand and explain commercial leases, a commercial kitchen, hiring staff, food safety, that sort of thing. Your aunt who makes this amazing bread that nobody like tastes better than you can buy at the grocery store. If she had the financial resources and the help, she could be like any of the other commercial bakers, Mrs. Fields, and that sort of thing. So I think there are huge barriers that prevent people from pursuing entrepreneurship. A, people don't believe in themselves. B, people don't know what they don't know. And of course, C, money. Money is such a barrier that it's such a painful barrier, because there are people who are capable and brilliant and creative and can do it, but simply because they can't afford the commercial kitchen, they can't afford the commercial lease, or they can't hire someone to help them do a business plan and just guide them along the way, the mentorship, the support, it just holds them back, which is such a shame. It's great when programs like Rise are available to people who need the support, and the programs and supports that RBC offers, that the Canadian government and the province offers. So it's so nice to see that there are opportunities for entrepreneurs now, especially on the financial side, which I would say is 50% of it. The other 50%, you can have all the money in the world and still not know what to do. You need mentorship, you need advisors, and you'll need guidance, so you can help someone to help you connect all the dots. Back to the aunt that's an amazing baker. You don't know how to market or prospect or package or promote or manage your books, then you're in trouble. So it goes hand in hand.
Yes, thank you so much for those insights and sharing that. That's amazing. The last question that I have, and then we will open it up to hear from all of you who have joined us, because you must have some questions. I hope you have some questions, and there's no question that's a bad question. So feel free to use the chat and we'll turn it over to you shortly. For you, Missy, what would you say to a young girl today who's thinking about being an entrepreneur, and what makes entrepreneurship a good option for BIPOC women?
Well, for the young girl, I would tell her to do it. Like Andrea said, you're either born into it, and if a young girl is inquisitive about it, she's obviously always been inquisitive about it. Myself, I'm not sure, I'm probably the oldest in the room, but I babysat. And I mean, my parents were coming to me for a loan because I was I was making the coin. I mean, I was marketing myself. I had the overnight options when I was 16. You know, if you're going overnight, that's going to be $100 on top of the regular. And if you come in past 9 o'clock in the morning to pick your children up, that's another $10 an hour. After that, I was, I was making money. I didn't know it was entrepreneurship. I just thought it was, buying clothes. But I was really passionate about those children. And then, I became a family support worker, early childhood educator. It just went hand in hand. But I think if that young girl is really passionate about it, check out those career days, talk to the people that come around, and talk to the people you want to talk to, not just to say, hey, but if this person is over here and they're really resonating with you, go talk to them, ask them questions, research what you want, what kind of idea that you have. Every child has access to a Chromebook or the internet. So look up, clothing design, jewelry making, just learn about it, start networking. You're never too young to network. I took my 16-year-old son to Time Raisers because I really wanted him to learn to meet people. He was very shy. And when I took him to the event, he didn't realize that we were going to go our separate way. But it was an awesome way for him to meet all of these organizations that were looking for youth to volunteer. So if this is another way for all of us to get involved, is find a time raiser in your community. But yeah, so just really push them that way. And I would tell them to email like the entrepreneur that just rings their bells. Like if there's an entrepreneur you really want to ask questions, send them an email, tell them, I'm 15 years old and I'm really interested in doing this. Would love to have an email back. Do that. I do that as a grown adult. And I have talked to some of the most amazing entrepreneurs around this world, and they answer, especially if you LinkedIn them. And why is it a great option for BIPOC women of color? I just think it's in us. It's in us. Our ancestors were. Iman's got Hustler stuck in my head now. It's been playing over and over Jay-Z in my head. But our ancestors, our great grandmothers were like selling vegetables and selling produce and mending and ironing and doing all of these things to feed their families, support their spouses, support their children. Because some did not have a spouse, they were gone. So they were just constantly the breadwinner. And it's just, I learned a term last week, and about how feminism on the continent is so different than it is for us in North America. And it was really around how the mother is supporting her family. The husband just goes to work, but the mother is the hunter, the gatherer. She leaves her home in her village, and she goes further and further and further because of global warming to support her culture, to support her home, sorry. And that's embedded in her culture. So how brave is that, So for us, we have to be just as brave. We have to realize that we're not going to be going into psychologically safe spaces. And it's not going to be a safe journey. So we have to be very brave, because when you take that step outside of and leave your workplace with all of the microaggressions, and all of the racism and the biases, you're going to step right into that in that bank when you go for the loan. And it's all going to come right back, flooding right back at you. But just know that after you've signed all of those papers, you can now go on your journey. So that's why this organization here, Rise, is the perfect place. Because as a woman with my intersections of being Black, having a mental illness, being neurodivergent, being over 50, like I can't just walk into a bank and go, okay, I'm here, I'm ready for a loan. They're not going to look at me. They're not going to support me. They're not going to put people in place to support me, but Rise will. Mentors, sponsors, funding, it is all under this beautiful roof in Toronto that I wish was here in Halifax as well. But Nick,
Hint, hint.
but yeah, so just I think it's a fabulous option, especially if that is what you're dealing with in your day to day.
Thank you so much, Missy, for sharing those great nuggets, gems, and insights. So now I do want to turn it over to our amazing attendees. And for those of you who have questions, please don't be shy. You could either unmute yourself or use the chat or even raise your hand. So has any questions been coming in, or anyone has a question they want to ask our panelists?
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. My camera, I'm
Hello.
trying to figure out how to
Oh, no
work my
worries.
camera, but it's not working. Sorry.
Your
Okay,
name? Your name?
Erica.
Hi,
My name is
Erica.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Some very insightful, advice that you guys have to give, and I really appreciate all that you guys had to say. It's actually putting me in a position now where I'm like, okay, why am I not starting this? Like there's hope, right? But now it's a matter, I believe Stacy touched base on this. It's like, where do you get those resources? Where do you get, it can be a bit difficult, yes, but you guys are able to kind of like help us along, or I don't know, help me along the way. But after this meeting, is there a way to like reach out to you or one of you guys and ask for like kind of like guidance to pursue what it is that I would like to do moving forward? Like, would that be
Perhaps
available?
RISE staff, is this for RISE staff? Did they want to comment on where to get started through the RISE program for those who want to start, or any of the panelists involved with RISE?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Erica, I'm not sure you're, because you've done something RISE. I don't know if it was training or lending. You can feel free to drop us an email at training@risehelps.ca. I almost said .com.ca. Drop us an email. We'll get in touch and we'll see where you're at and how we can support you. Does that work for you?
Yes. Okay. So the same email, or do I leave that in the chat? Like, or is it the same email that I used to register?
It's in the
you just
chat.
gave me
I'll
the,
pop it
okay.
right now, and then you can paste, you can copy it from there.
Didn't hear you. Okay. Okay, then thanks.
All right, thank you for your question, Erica. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for the panelists? You can.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I feel compelled to say this. We did a poll, and so there are different categories. Somebody selected they weren't feeling very optimistic. So I want I'm talking to you. Whoever said you're not feeling very optimistic, and I think somebody said they're feeling like optimistic. It's a journey. Not feeling optimistic, feeling really optimistic. I've been here. I've been here, I've been here, I've been all over. And I'm sure most of the people on this call have felt the same way. Don't feel discouraged. We don't feel optimistic at different times on our journey. Don't think it's you. Maybe it's your idea. Maybe it needs to be tweaked or refined, or maybe you need to niche down and focus on a specific category. But keep going, fail forward, fail fast, and reach out for help. Like Missy said, email somebody, connect with them on LinkedIn, somebody in the same space or somebody with a complementary service or product, just to bounce ideas, reach out to people at RISE, reach out to any of us, but don't give up. Maybe that's not the best idea, but you still have it in you. Maybe you just need to try a different idea. What I'm doing now is not what I was doing 4 years ago or even 8 years ago. You know, Missy said she started off as the expert babysitter. Man started off in arts, dancing. We're all on a different journey, and starting off in one thing that maybe didn't work will take you like this to something that will work. So I just wanted to encourage you and reach out for help and keep going, keep going.
Yes, thank you, Andrea, for that. We all need that, myself included. I always say, feel the fear and do it anyway. You're going to feel afraid, but just do it anyway. Don't wait for that perfect moment where you think everything's perfect. So now I can start my business, right? It's really that up and down, right? So that's what it's about. Does anyone else have any questions or comments before I think we wrap it up? Because I know we're getting to the time of closing, but I want to give everyone a chance to comment or share. Ask a question.
Yeah, Iman, it looks like your hand's up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really glad that Andrea brought that up. I think that just kind of centers this whole conversation, I think, really beautifully. Tomorrow is not promised, and I really remind myself that a lot. And I guess, in terms of a mindfulness practice of just checking myself, on those days where I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? When is this gonna still, third business, finding success, but still working full time, still in that, scarcity mindset, still, right? Still operating from fear. I'm sharing this vulnerably and openly. I'm very successful in my business. This is my third business, but I'm still working 3 jobs. This is not something that's, it's going to take, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to break those patterns and inspire hope within yourself. And I think by connecting to others, hearing stories, I'm still here. I'm still on this path with you all. I'm in the trenches. This is what I say to the women that I work with. I'm like, I'm in the trenches with you. Don't look at me as like your just success story. It's a lot of brain rewiring, especially when we come from challenging times. But reminding yourself just that one, if I can offer, that tomorrow is not promised, and if I don't try this today, then what else? So I just wanted to just share that.
Thank you so much, Iman. That's so powerful. Anyone else have questions, comments before we wrap up this wonderful conversation, which I wish wasn't ending?
Post affirmations on your mirror, post them on your fridge, post them around your laptop. Those affirmations will push you forward. Get your hands on the Book of Joy with the Dalai Lama and Reverend Tutu. Get your hands on Everyday Ubuntu. These books they're the books that you just open up and just read what is like where you open the book. And that will help inspire your day and push you forward, because entrepreneurship, right?
Got
Andrea,
it.
right?
Listen.
Entrepreneurship.
Amazing.
Look, Iman's holding a book. Like, it's amazing.
Yes.
So get your hand on, you'll find some books you might pick up and they'll be like, right? But find that book that speaks to you and use it to guide you on. And I put an affirmation in the chat, which is like over here, like right here looking at me, Martin Luther King, faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see that whole staircase.
That's my favorite quote right there, Missy. You make me want to say amen. This is good. And just to add to resources, what's also helpful too are these podcasts for entrepreneurs. One of my favorites is Access and Opportunities by Carla Harris, who's also an author of the book Strategize to Win. Please Google her, just go to her YouTube. She's a motivational speaker, but her podcast, Access and Opportunity, really dives into the barriers that entrepreneurs of color, women face, and how folks have navigated and what we need. So that one is good. And also How I Built This. Those are 2 like really inspiring podcasts on entrepreneurships that will help you with that mindset shift that we need to have, because you have to have a certain mindset and perspective to be an entrepreneur, and it takes some time to get there. So don't be afraid to start, do some reading of the books, listen to some podcasts, and you'll get there, right? In time, we just have to be patient with ourselves and never give up. As my late mother would say, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. She always said that. Anytime I want to drop out of school, give up, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. So that's in my head, and I hope it will stay with all of you. But thanks. It was great to moderate this discussion. I'll share the names of the podcast in the chat as well.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you, Andrea, Iman, and Missy, for tonight, for sharing your insight, your thoughts, and experience. I totally echo. Just listening, I could listen for more. I could listen for hours. I just loved the conversation that was here, and it's unfortunate we have to wrap up and let everyone off for the evenings. But again, thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you to you, our attendee. I really hope that this panel gave you some food for thought, some inspiration, some affirmations for your own journey. And as a thank you for attending, we will be sending each of the attendees a 1-month subscription to Headspace via your email address. Headspace is an app that helps you with managing sleep and stress through meditation and mindfulness. We hope this will be useful for you, and these subscriptions are generously donated by RBC. So we'd like to thank RBC again for their support. We are very grateful for everything that they do for Rise and for you. We would also appreciate your feedback. So if you have a few moments, we will put a link in the chat to complete a survey regarding the event tonight. And your feedback is very vital to us as we plan future events. And we will also send it in a post-event email as well. I just want to thank my colleagues, Jasmine, Grant, the panelists, Katie. You are all amazing. Thank you again. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Thanks for joining us. Good night, everyone.